Hello and welcome to NovelListen English. Today we step into the dark and famous world of George Orwell's 1984. This is Level 2, the Intermediate Edition. We will learn new vocabulary, understand the main story, and feel the excitement of Winston Smith's dangerous life. To learn more and practice your English, I highly recommend downloading the PDF worksheet linked in the description below. It includes a vocabulary list, grammar tips, and reading exercises to help you understand the story perfectly. Now get ready for a story about control, secrets, and a dangerous love. Pay attention to the new words and the description of this scary future. Let's begin our journey into 1984.
It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith lived in Airstrip 1, a province of Oceania. It was a terrifying world. The party controlled everything, and the face of their leader, Big Brother, watched from giant posters on every corner. In Winston's small apartment, a device called a telescreen was always on. It broadcasted propaganda, but worse, it also watched and listened. There was no privacy. The thought police could monitor anyone at any time. Even a strange look on your face could get you arrested. Winston worked at the Ministry of Truth. His job was a lie. He spent his days rewriting historical records and old newspapers to match the party's current promises. If Big Brother said something that was wrong, Winston changed the past to make it right. Truth did not exist. Every day, the workers gathered for the 2 minutes hate. A giant screen showed Emmanuel Goldstein, the enemy of the people. The crowd screamed in pure anger, throwing things at the screen. Winston hated the party, but he found himself shouting with the crowd. It was a mindless madness. Despite the terrible danger, Winston bought a beautiful, blank diary from an antique shop. Sitting in a small corner, hidden from the telescreen, he began to write. He wrote the words, "Down with Big Brother," over and over. This was a thought crime, and the punishment was certain death. At work, Winston often saw a young, dark-haired girl from the fiction department. She wore the red sash of the Junior Anti-Sex League. Winston hated her. He believed she was a spy for the thought police, secretly watching his every move, waiting for a chance to destroy him. During the 2 minutes hate, Winston made brief eye contact with O'Brien, a powerful member of the inner party. In that single moment, Winston felt a spark of hope. He secretly believed that O'Brien also hated the party and belonged to a legendary underground resistance group. Winston had lunch with Syme, a man working on the new dictionary for Newspeak. Syme explained their goal: to destroy words. By making the vocabulary smaller every year, they would make rebellious thoughts impossible. Without words, nobody could even think against the party. As Winston closed his diary, he accepted his fate. He knew the thought police would eventually come for him. They would arrest him in the middle of the night and erase his name from history. He was already a dead man. But until they caught him, he decided to stay human. One morning at the ministry, the dark-haired girl fell in the hallway right in front of Winston. Her arm was in a sling. When he helped her stand up, she quickly slipped a small, folded piece of paper into his hand. Winston was terrified. He thought it was a message from the thought police. He waited for hours until he was safely alone in a bathroom stall to read the secret note. He slowly unfolded the paper, expecting a death threat. Instead, he saw 3 words written in large, unformed handwriting. "I love you." Winston couldn't believe his eyes. His heart raced with a mix of fear and sudden hope. They finally managed to speak a few days later in Victory Square. The square was crowded with people watching Eurasian prisoners of war, standing shoulder to shoulder, but never looking at each other. The girl told him her name was Julia. They quickly made a dangerous plan to meet outside the city, far from the telescreens. On a Sunday afternoon, Winston traveled to the countryside. He found the secret clearing Julia had described. It looked exactly like the beautiful landscape he often saw in his dreams, a place he called the Golden Country. Here, there were no hidden microphones. They finally embraced, tasting freedom for the first time. Julia was not a political rebel like Winston. She hated the party simply because it stopped her from having fun. But for Winston, their relationship was deeply political. In a world where the party demanded complete control over human emotions, their secret love was a massive strike against Big Brother. Winston returned to the Prole district and visited the dusty antique shop where he had bought his diary. The friendly owner, an old man named Mr. Charrington, showed him around. The shop felt like a peaceful museum of the past, completely forgotten by the modern, terrifying world of Oceania. Mr. Charrington showed Winston a cozy room upstairs. It had an old double bed, a clock, and most importantly, no telescreen. Despite the immense risk of getting caught by the thought police, Winston made a crazy decision. He rented the room for a few dollars a week so he and Julia could have a secret sanctuary. Winston also bought a beautiful, heavy glass paperweight with a piece of pink coral embedded inside. He loved it because it belonged to an age before the party existed. He imagined that the small piece of coral was his life with Julia, protected and frozen inside the solid, clear glass. In their rented room, Julia surprised Winston with black market goods. She brought real coffee, sugar, and bread, things only inner party members usually had. She even put on makeup and perfume, transforming herself. For a few brief hours every week, they lived like normal human beings from the past. Winston and Julia took a massive risk and visited O'Brien at his luxurious apartment. Unlike normal citizens, inner party members could actually turn off their telescreens for a short time. O'Brien poured them real wine. Winston finally confessed his hatred for Big Brother and asked to join the secret rebellion. O'Brien confirmed that the underground resistance, called the Brotherhood, was real. He told them that Emmanuel Goldstein was its leader. He warned Winston and Julia that they would have to lie, steal, and maybe even kill for the cause. They agreed to do anything except separate from each other. During Hate Week, Oceania went completely mad with anger against its enemies. Parades, speeches, and executions happened every day. In the middle of this chaos, a stranger secretly handed Winston a heavy briefcase. Inside was the book, the Forbidden Manifesto written by Emmanuel Goldstein himself. Winston took the book to the secret room above Mr. Charrington's shop. While Julia slept peacefully beside him, he began to read. The book explained how the party maintained its power through endless war, poverty, and ignorance. For the first time, Winston felt he truly understood the world. The next morning, they stood by the window, feeling safe. Suddenly, a cold, metallic voice echoed through the room. "You are the dead," it said. The voice came from behind an old painting of a church on the wall. They realized with absolute horror that it was a hidden telescreen. Before they could react, the door and windows were smashed open. Men in black uniforms poured into the room, carrying heavy boots and truncheons. It was the thought police. They grabbed Julia, punched her in the stomach, and dragged her away like an animal. Winston was completely frozen. One of the guards picked up Winston's beautiful glass paperweight from the table and smashed it on the floor. The glass shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the tiny piece of pink coral rolled away. It was a cruel symbol. Their fragile, secret world had just been completely destroyed. Then, a man entered the room. It was Mr. Charrington, the antique shop owner, but he looked different. He no longer wore glasses. His hair was black, and his face was cold and cruel. Winston realized the terrible truth. Mr. Charrington was a member of the thought police, and it was all a trap. Winston was hit on the head and dragged out of the shop. He knew where they were taking him. The Ministry of Love, a windowless fortress where the party tortured its enemies. The dream was over. He had finally been caught, and there was no escape from Big Brother. Winston woke up in a bright, windowless cell inside the Ministry of Love. There was no difference between day and night here. The telescreens watched his every move. He was surrounded by political prisoners and ordinary criminals, all waiting in terror for their punishments. Suddenly, the door opened and O'Brien walked in. Winston realized the terrible truth. O'Brien was not a rebel. He was a loyal inner party member and a torturer. The Brotherhood and the secret book were just clever traps created by the thought police to catch thought criminals. For weeks, or perhaps months, Winston was brutally tortured. O'Brien controlled a machine that sent unimaginable pain through his body. During the torture, O'Brien explained the dark truth. The party did not seek power for the good of the people. They sought power purely for the sake of power. The goal of the torture was not just to punish Winston, but to change his reality. O'Brien held up 4 fingers and forced Winston to say he saw 5. Slowly, Winston's mind began to break under the pressure. He started to believe the party's lies because the pain was simply too great. Even though his body was destroyed and his logic was broken, Winston still held onto one last thing: his love for Julia. He had confessed to his crimes, but he had not betrayed her in his heart. O'Brien knew this completely, and he prepared Winston for the final, terrifying stage. Winston was taken deep underground, to the dreaded room 101. O'Brien told him that this room contained the worst thing in the world. For every person, the worst thing is different. For Winston, his greatest, unendurable nightmare was rats. O'Brien brought a wire cage filled with starving, aggressive rats close to Winston's face. Blind, with absolute panic, Winston finally broke. He screamed, "Do it to Julia, not me, Julia." In that exact moment, he betrayed the only person he loved, losing his humanity forever. Long after his release, Winston accidentally met Julia in a park on a freezing day. Both of them were changed, their spirits completely crushed. They openly admitted that they had betrayed each other in room 101. The love they once felt was entirely gone, replaced by a cold emptiness. Winston sat alone at the Chestnut Tree Cafe, drinking cheap gin. A victory song played on the telescreen. He looked up at the giant portrait of Big Brother. 2 gin-scented tears rolled down his cheeks. The struggle was finally over. He had won the victory over himself. He loved Big Brother.
You have reached the end of this amazing story. Understanding this famous novel in English is a great achievement. Don't forget to download the PDF in the description to review the new vocabulary and test your memory. If some parts were difficult, you can always listen to the elementary level first. But if you feel ready for a bigger challenge, click here to try the advanced version of this story. I would love to know what you want to read next. Should we do Animal Farm or maybe Frankenstein? Please write your favourite classic novel in the comments below. Thank you for listening and learning with me today. Subscribe to NovelListen English to improve your English with the world's best stories. Until next time, goodbye.